And also got a thing here from Doug Starfield. He identifies himself as, and he has ever since he's been corresponding with the Malloy program in all of our different forms. But he identifies himself as an engineer with a conscience. I sure can get my mind around that. Thank you, Doug. Anyway, this is what Doug wrote. This is very interesting. If you are familiar with the Divine Comedy, which, oh, Lord, we had to read in high school. What was it? Il Inferno, Il Purgatorio, and Il Paradiso. And the one I liked the most was Il Inferno because it was so violently Christian, as Mr. Dante Alighieri wasn't he? Is that his last name? Anyway, this is from Doug Starfield. He writes, "Hi, Mike. This might help as you plan your next podcast. It's a Trump's Inferno, a modern version of Dante's Inferno. To wit, in the infernal depths of Dante's vision, a new figure emerged, clad in a suit of gold and draped in arrogance. It was none other than Donald Trump, the former president of the United States, descending into the circles of hell. As Trump journeyed through the 9 circles, he encountered the souls of those he had wronged and the consequences of his actions. In the first circle, he encountered the shades of those who had fallen victim to his lies and deceit, condemned to spend eternity in a river of falsehoods. In the second circle, he faced the wrath of those he had betrayed, from former allies to estranged family members, all seething with resentment and anger. In the third circle, he found himself surrounded by the gluttonous souls of those who had suffered under his policies of greed and excess. As Trump descended further into the abyss, he encountered the souls of immigrants and refugees condemned to wander through the fourth circle, their cries of anguish echoing off the walls of hell. In the fifth circle, he faced the torment of those who had suffered under his disregard for the environment, condemned to endure the flames of pollution and destruction. In the sixth circle, he encountered the souls of those who had been unjustly imprisoned or persecuted, their chains rattling with the weight of injustice. At the seventh circle, he faced the consequences of his lust for power and control, surrounded by the shades of those he had manipulated and exploited for his own gain. In the eighth circle, he confronted the treachery of his own actions, betrayed by those he had once trusted and abandoned to suffer in the depths of hell. Finally, in the ninth circle, he faced the ultimate punishment for his sins, eternal isolation and despair, condemned to spend eternity alone in the frozen lake of Cocytus, separated from all he had ever known. And so, Donald Trump descended through the circles of hell, facing the consequences of his actions and the judgment of history. A cautionary tale for all those who would dare to follow in his footsteps. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Doug Starfield, an engineer with a conscience. That really conjures up, Doug's rendering of sort of a synopsis of Il Inferno. It just conjures up. I can almost smell the classroom. You know how all high schools have a certain smell? I don't know what it is. I guess it's a combination of the cleaning material they use on the floors or food from the cafeteria or whatever it is. But all high schools have the same familiar, not unpleasant fragrance or odor or smell. And in reading Doug's redo of a synopsis of Il Inferno, I could smell Lincoln School, not Lincoln, but Scott High School in Toledo, Ohio. I could smell it again. Jessup W. Scott High School. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.